As a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from everybody. Life lesson learned, I better learn from this bitch, nobody. She pushed me around, she didn't give no motherfucks about it. She broke my heart 3 times, but I ain't getting...
The New Orleans Saints are being heavily underrated going into the upcoming 2021 NFL season. I believe this team is going to make it into the playoffs. And if you watch my New Orleans Saints record prediction that I dropped a couple of days ago, I had them going 10-7. I believe that this team will make it into the playoffs. And when you look at this team, this is a really good roster. This is still one of the better overall rosters in the NFL. Now, I understand that they have concerns when it comes to the cornerback position. Outside of Marshawn Lattimore, you don't really have a good number 2 option. And then you have questions about the linebacker position. But outside of that, the New Orleans Saints still have a really great team that is more than capable of being able to win the Super Bowl. Now, you did lose Emmanuel Sanders. You did lose star quarterback Drew Brees, future first ballot Hall of Famer, to retirement. But I believe in Sean Payton. I believe in Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback for the Saints this year, I believe that the Saints will make it to the playoffs. And I'm not being biased because you guys know I am a diehard Jameis Winston fan. He is my favorite NFL player of all time. But I strongly believe that Jameis Winston will be able to take the Saints to the playoffs because, first of all, he has a better situation than what he ever had with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints pretty much have a top 5, top 10 offensive line. He never had that with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As a matter of fact, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't improve their offensive line until Tom Brady arrived. Also, he has a running game. Never really had that with Tampa Bay. You got Alvin Kamara now in the backfield, who is one of the best running backs, if not the best back in the NFL. Then you got Michael Thomas. You got Traquan Smith. You have a really good group of wide receivers. You have one of the best offensive minds in NFL history in Sean Payton. Jameis Winston has the best situation ever since he's been drafted by Tampa Bay. Now, I know a lot of people are going to bring up the fact that Jameis Winston is turnover prone, and I understand that. But you guys got to understand something. Even though Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions in 2019, that would never happen again. Well, I won't say it may never happen again, but the chances of that happening are the same chances that me, you, and my grandma has of winning the lottery. Slim to none. Because to throw 30 interceptions, you have, there's more than just throwing it to the opposing team. You got to have some tip passes in there. You got to be really bad to throw 30 interceptions for a second time. Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions in 2019 is an anomaly. Chances of it happening again are 1 in a million. And on top of that, you got to remember, not all 30 of those interceptions were on Jameis Winston. You had some tip passes up there. You have wide receivers who didn't finish running through the ball. So, if we're being real, Jameis Winston pretty much only, threw 22 interceptions. I know I say only it's great or anything. That's not good neither. Still really turnover prone. He still has issues taking care of the football when it comes to fumbles as well. But at the end of the day, Jameis Winston was second in the NFL in 2019 in passing touchdowns behind Lamar Jackson. He also had 5,000 yards. So, yes, you do see the bad of Jameis Winston, but you also got to see the good side of Jameis Winston. But you don't really see a lot of people talk about it. You just see people continue with this negative connotation that Jameis Winston is just this terrible quarterback that you can't win with. You can win with Jameis Winston. And as a matter of fact, Jameis Winston is going to be an upgrade from Drew Brees in some capacity, because one knock on Drew Brees and the Saints offense that a lot of people have had over the last couple of years is that Drew Brees couldn't throw the ball downfield. The Saints didn't really have a lot of explosive passing plays for more than 20 or 30 yards down the field. Now you look at Jameis Winston, you have a guy who is really good at throwing the deep ball. You have a guy who is really aggressive. So the Saints offense, when it comes to big playability and explosiveness, should definitely improve if Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback. And you look at Sean Payton, I feel like Sean Payton is the right coach for Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston was playing with Bruce Arians, somebody whose philosophy was literally no risk it, no biscuit. Are you serious? You pair up a super aggressive quarterback with a super aggressive head coach. You really think that was going to work out? And if you guys look at the numbers, every quarterback in the first year in Bruce Arians' system has a high number of turnovers. Carson Palmer, All of the quarterbacks who have been coached under Bruce Arians has had a lot of turnovers in their first year under the system. If Jameis Winston would have been given a second chance and then brought back for another year under Bruce Arians with the team that the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl with, who knows? Maybe the Buccaneers could have had just as much success with Jameis Winston as they would have had with Tom Brady. I'm not saying that they would have. I'm just throwing that hypothetical out there. That Bruce Arians really gave Jameis Winston 1 year, and he knows and everybody else knows that every quarterback in the first season under Bruce Arians has a high number of turnovers. Even Tom Brady, it took him a while to grasp Bruce Arians' system. He had some games that he had a good amount of turnovers. As a matter of fact, I think this is the most turnovers that Tom Brady has had in a very long time. So Bruce Arians' system is just not a system that you can just pick up and learn right off the bat. There are going to be some growing pains in there. There are going to be some highly volatile games. So you look at him going to Sean Payton. Sean Payton is a guy who is really efficient in his schemes. He's really smart in terms of being able to get the most out of whoever he has at quarterback. You saw this guy with Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill also could be the starter because they could build an offense around Taysom Hill. And a lot of you guys may be like, well, JT, if you're so high on Jameis Winston, why didn't he start over Taysom Hill? The reason for that, and this was brought on by my guy, Locked On Saints podcast, Ross Johnson. If you guys watch my New Orleans Saints training camp preview, he said that when Taysom Hill signed his contract, there was a clause in there that said that if Drew Brees or something was happening to the starting Saints quarterback, that Taysom Hill would be the guy who would step up and get an opportunity to play at quarterback. And the Saints honored that. Sean Payton honored that clause in the contract, and he allowed Taysom Hill to play. So that was actually something that was in his contract, that if Drew Brees went down, that he would be the guy who would end up starting for him in return. So when you look at Jameis Winston, I definitely feel like Jameis Winston is going to be good enough to get the Saints into the playoffs this year. I have them at 10-7. And I don't think the Saints are overrated. Like, I think a lot of people fail to realize that this is still a really great team. And you're playing in a division that, although it may be pretty tough, you got the Bucs there. The Panthers aren't going to be a cakewalk. The Falcons probably ain't going to be a cakewalk neither. They may not have a defense, but they're definitely going to be able to put a lot of points up on you. So when you look at the Saints, I understand they have some flaws, but I definitely feel like this team is being heavily overlooked, and they're going into the season really under the radar. Because a lot of people are really sleeping on Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is going to bounce back this year. I believe in it. And even though I am a Jameis Winston fan, I'm not being biased. I strongly believe that the Saints are a playoff caliber football team. And this is a dark horse Super Bowl team as well. You got the defense there. You got everything that you need to be successful if you are Jameis Winston, including having a really good coach. As a matter of fact, Sean Payton is probably the best head coach that he's ever had. So in the first time in his NFL career, he's getting proper coaching. And not a knock against Bruce Arians. Just that you have a guy who is basically encouraging Jameis Winston to be reckless. Literally, the man told him no risk it, no biscuit. So I think that the Saints are going to make the playoffs this season. They may not win the division, but I definitely feel like they're going to be able to clinch either the 6th or 7th seed and one of the last remaining spots in the NFC playoff picture this season.